This week on Angling Archaeology, we're going to take a look at a lure that sold millions upon millions back in the day. And well, I guess you could say the popularity just kind of fell flat. Pun intended. In fact, this lure's been around for almost a full century and is still being produced today and still catching fish. And that is none other than the flatfish. Stick around as we dive headfirst into the flatfish history. Charles HELIN came up with the flatfish back in 1933, applied for a patent in 1934, and the patent was granted in 1936. Now, throughout the years, the flatfish came in a wide variety of sizes, hook configurations, and colors. Now, depending on the year, the flatfish was really divided into three different categories. You had your regular size, your fly rod sizes, and then also your saltwater models. So what's interesting to note is that the flatfish had a 4 treble hook configuration, mostly geared towards larger fish. So for example, you had a muskie option, which was a number 5 treble hook, and it was 4 1/4 inches long, a lake trout, which is a number 5 treble hook, 4 inches long, a pike, which is a number 6 treble hook, 3 3/4. You had a troller, which is a 7, and it was 3 1/2. You had a surface and an underwater, both number 8 treble hooks, 3 3/8 and 3 1/4, and a light underwater, which was a size 9 treble hook and 3 inches in length. Now, they were also available in a 3 treble hook option, with all the options that I previously mentioned, in addition to some downsized 2-inch options like the spin underwater, which was 2 5/8, the spin surface, which was 2 1/2, the expert, which is 2 3/4, and the expert junior, which was 2 1/2. All came with 3 treble hooks. And once we get into the fly rod option, we're going to see a double treble hook, a single treble hook, and then a singular hook. And these lengths range from 1 inch to 2 1/4 inches. And what's interesting about the double treble hook, it's not what you would think. It's not one hook in front of the other. It's a hanger style, and I'll show you an example of that here in just a little bit. Now, that being said, what you would maybe think of with 2 treble hooks, that would be the saltwater model. Now, with the saltwater model, you'll see 1 treble hook in the back and then another in the center of the lure. Now, HELIN'S made the flatfish out of wood until 1948, and in 1949 switched over to plastic. Now, that being said, there were still some models being made out of wood after 1948. So just because you have one that's made out of wood doesn't necessarily mean that it's older than 1948. It could be a newer model. And then in the 1970s, they actually came out with wooden models again for a brief period of time. All right, so let's say that you've got an old flatfish in Grandpa's old tackle box and you're not sure exactly what it is. Well, HELIN'S did an incredible job of IDing each lure. So if you don't have the box, you should be able to see on the lure what it is. Let's say, for example, it says F6. Now, F6, we know the F meaning the fly rod. Now, the 6 version is the 2-inch, and it's got the number 12 treble hook. Now, if you have the box, even better, that's like a VIN on a vehicle, you can tell exactly what you have because it's also going to have the color. So let's just say it says F6SS. Now, F6, obviously we know that's a fly rod version. SS, meaning silver scale for the color. So if you have the box, it's very easy to identify exactly what color and type you have. But if you only have the flatfish by itself and you're unsure of the color, you can still see the size by the identification number on the front end of the lure itself. Now, the flatfish was not the only lure that HELIN'S provided. In fact, they've had a few other ones, like the fish cake, which came out in 1956. And this was a topwater style prop lure. They also had a really cool one that came out in 1960 called the swimmer spoon. Now, similar in design to the flatfish, it also had a plastic insert on the bottom. So this was a metal lure with a plastic insert that could be removed so you could put different colors on. Over the years, there have been millions and millions and millions of flatfish sold. And as a matter of fact, you can still buy these brand new today from your local tackle shop. Yakima Baits actually purchased the company back in 1990 and is still producing it. So get out there, go find yourself a flatfish, and fish something that's been around for almost a century and is a proven fish catcher. So obviously the biggest elephant in the room is that the flatfish right here looks an awful lot like this puppy out of Iowa, and this is none other than the Lazy Ike. Now, if you want to learn more about the Lazy Ike, got a whole video about the history of that. Go check it out. But the Flatfish actually came out a few years before. It was conceived in 33, patent was applied for in 34, and then the patent was approved in 1936. This one came out in 1938, so this one beat it by a few years. Other noticeable differences, the hanger style hooks. Now this is a fly rod version, so you only see 2 of the treble hooks, but if you had a standard lure, you have another hook here, or you'd have another set of treble hooks that looks just like this. They have the hanger style, so you'd have 4 total hooks. Very, very cool. This one only has hooks that are one in front of the other, one in the middle of the body and one in the back. That being said, HELIN'S actually came up with one just like this for their saltwater version, where they would have one in front of the other. So you kind of get a little bit of both. But here's a very good comparison of what both of these look like. So, and another thing too, if you just want to see how do you tell the difference, well, Lazy Ike is always put on the bottom of each one of these. HELIN'S, if you want to know if you got one of those, they're going to put a marking like this one says F6, so like fly rod version 6. That's how you know. So Lazy Ike will always have that on the belly, and then the HELIN'S will always have some kind of marking up here letting you know what you got. So just want to throw that out there. Let's get back to it. Whoa, before somebody corrects me, hold on real quick, just going back to Lazy Ike real fast. So if you have an older one, it will say Lazy Ike on the belly. If you have a newer one like this one from the 1980s right here, let's just pull this one out. This one says Ike on the top, okay? So I'm referring more to the older stuff, let's say like pre-1980s. Okay, let's get back to the HELIN'S, back to the show. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into this box of garage sale gold. And as a matter of fact, my brother found this about a month ago and called me and said, hey, do you want this box of Flatfish? And I said, yeah, absolutely I do. Especially these ones right here that are new in box. That's incredible to find those out in the wild new in box. So we'll go take a look at these here in 1 second, but I think we need to start with this one because it has an insert. And so we'll look at that here in just 1 sec. But, all right, so let's start with the name here. It looks like it says HELIN'S, and I bet that's been mispronounced about 1,000,000 times. It's actually HELIN'S. HELIN'S Flatfish. So let's go ahead. Well, here, let's start right here. Let's look at the box. Look at the color on that. Really cool. And then you have, looks like different sizing on here on the back. So you have a size chart on that one, then you have a size chart on the bottom. But the box condition is incredible on this. So, and if you have the box, I was talking about that before, it's like a VIN number. So it says F6, so we see F6 on this. SS meaning that it's silver scale. We can tell that that's correct. So it's really neat if you have the box to match up with the lure, but this is really important. Let's go ahead and move this out of the way for 1 second. Now, they don't make stuff like this anymore, folks. This is awesome that this came with the box. And I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of pause this just like this. So if you guys want to screenshot this, if you're on your cell phone, or you want to pause it and you're watching this on TV. So here's a picture of the top part where the regulator size and the fly sizes are. And then down here it says there's 17 models made, not including ocean. And you can just take a look at what you got right there. So if you need to decode any of the Flatfish that you have in your home, you can do that. So how do you know what you got? What do these different things mean, okay? So let's just look down here real quick for a second. So, all the first letters mean something. M, muskie. L, lake trout. P, pike. T, troller. S, surface. U, underwater. So on, so on. Then we get down to the Fs. Those are all the fly rod. And so here's what you have over here. You see all the F models are all fly rod. And here's all the regular sizes as well, too. And then look at the color chart. I mean, just an expansive line of different colors that we have here. I mean, really just anything you can think of, they got it. They did a phenomenal job on that. Now we look over here, and this is the saltwater models over here. And this, if you see that, that's kind of more typical of what you'd think of when you're looking at the Lazy Ike. We just talked about that a little bit ago. So that's what the ocean model would look like. In the back, hey, the information doesn't stop. In fact, it keeps going. And we've got the swimmer spoon. I'm going to show you an example of what that looks like here in 1 second. That is a really, really cool lure. I mean, for a spoon too, because spoons are not always the most exciting things in the world. But they did make it kind of exciting with the HELIN'S. And then you have down here, and this is the popping fish cake. And what's great about that, it's not like other top water prop lures because it has the hanger style hooks. And so you got the larger one here with the 4 hooks, the 4 treble, and then you have the medium size, which just has the hanger style in the front, the one in the rear, and then you have a baby one with just the 2 hangers right there. But really neat. All right, so let's go ahead and pull the Flatfish back over here so we can kind of take a look at what we got. So what we've got here is just another version of the F6 SS, and that is the silver scale. So we don't need to look at 2 of those, but we got a couple of those over there. So what we have here in the bin, we've got F4, F5, F6, F7, and then we have a spoon. And so let's just say you don't have the box, so you don't know exactly what you got here. You can still kind of decode by just taking a look at what we've got here. So like this one, for example, you can see it says F4, so you know what you got. This is the same size. So this is a really cool one. This is a frog color. But let's say we're going over here to the F4. Do you want to know exactly what the F4 is? F4 is a baby junior. We have a size 9 treble hook. It's 1.5 inches. And back in the day, it cost $1.50. So we're looking over here. We got the F4 and we have green frog imitation. So we have an F4 green frog imitation, so you can kind of see what that would look like. So really cool way to kind of decode that. Moving on to the F5, 6, and 7. Then we move over to the hanger style hooks. Looks like we're missing the treble hook there. This is a perch pattern right here. We have some of the silver scale. We can see this is what the hooks will look like. And just for the sake of time, let's go ahead and take a look at this one right here, this F7. This is kind of the big mamma jamma when it comes to the fly rod versions. And honestly, this is big enough where you could use an ultralight. And that's probably what I would use if I was going to throw this. So that might be kind of fun just to use an ultralight out there and see what this thing can do. But the F7, you can see it's obviously fly rod version, 2 number 9 hooks, and we have 2 1/4 inches in length. Now, I do want to say something as well too. Oh, and if we're looking at the color, it looks like this one is silver plates with blue scale. So that's what this one is. So now, going back to the color as well too, this is just the color chart that they had for whatever year that this came out. If you're going to look at some much older Flatfish, it's going to have a limited amount of colors. And obviously, when we get into the newer style ones, especially the ones made by Yakima, they're probably going to have some radically different colors. So this is just the color chart that I have for these particular years. But they're going to change throughout time, just like, most lures do. They're probably going to have the core colors that that have been around since the beginning. But you're going to see a little variation from here to there. So, all right, let's pull this over to the other side here. Let's look at the swimmer spoon, okay? So the swimmer spoon is slightly different, and it's got the same type of design. We can see right here. Here's the different variations. You have the 1 treble hook, and then you have a dual treble hook option, and here's a dual treble hook option. But here's what's really neat about this. Look at this plate right here. This is removable. It's got 2 little screws right here that you can take these out, and then you can replace it with other colors. And so they've got inserts right here. And so they've got 16 assorted colors that you can choose from. Very, very cool. So if you're like, I don't know if silver scale's working today, maybe I want to move on to something else. I mean, you can just take this one off and move on to another color. Pretty neat. And then here, just if you guys want to see it, I don't have an example of one, but this is what the fish cake would have looked like. So there's some general information on the top water popping fish cake right there. So for the 4 or 5 of you out there that actually watch this channel, you know by now that I love finding old school lures out in the wild, learning about the history, and then passing those on to you guys so you guys can enjoy them as well. As a matter of fact, my brother actually found all these HELIN'S at a garage sale, and he called and said, hey, I can get a pretty good deal on this. I said, pick them all up. This is fantastic. So I'm gonna take a couple of these out And I'm gonna, put them on the fly rod and try them out. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I wouldn't think to use a lure like this on a fly rod, but I think it'll make a great video. So we're gonna do that this winter. But then the rest of them, I'm gonna pass these on to you. I'm gonna put these on Angling Archaeology eBay. So be on the lookout for that. Here's it right here. We got a whole bunch of different items on there for you to check out. And then on top of that too, we've got some fresh stuff that's gonna be posted very soon. Like this right here, this Tommy Trout. I think we've all heard of the Billy Bass, but how about Tommy Trout, huh? You're gonna need this one in your collection. Perfect for a man cave. We'll put that on there here pretty soon. And then also too, we've got some like this micro bait caster right here, old school. I mean, look at this right here. The Zebco, this is a 202, brand new, never ever been used. Still has the plastic on it. Look at this. I mean, that is in incredible shape. Unused vintage Zebco. Yeah, you're gonna love that. And then probably my favorite item, it pains me to get rid of this, but this right here, this old school Rebel. Oh man, this is an incredible tackle box. It's a 600, so it's kind of the big boy. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a deep clean. I've opened this up once before. Whoa! I'm gonna tell you they did some catfishing with that. Probably had some dough bait that was left in there for a little too long. Kind of, I'll be honest with you, it smells like someone farted and then shut the box for 30 years. So we're gonna give this a really good, solid deep clean, then put this online for you guys to enjoy. But you can tell just the graphics are in incredible shape. The box itself is really amazing. Just needs a little TLC, little scrub-a-dub-dub because it smells pretty bad. So that's going to do it for this episode of Angling Archaeology, where we unearth the good old days. I want to thank you all for watching, liking, subscribing. And if you haven't done so, please do like and subscribe. It really does help me out quite a bit. And until next time, folks, we'll see you out on the water. Thanks for watching Angling Archaeology, where we unearth the good old days. Don't forget to like and subscribe.